Okay, it is 9 o'clock. We'll go ahead and get started. Thanks everyone for taking some time here this morning to go over a preview of SubHub Ohio. Justin went through a demo on Wednesday, and I know that the ICC staff were invited to that as well. So if you were on that on Wednesday, I am not as fluid in SubHub as Justin is. So this one's going to be a little bit more of a beginner pace. We at the support team at State Software are also getting familiar with the SubHub application. So I won't know all of your answers to your questions today. I'm going to phone a friend, and the support team will be answering chat messages as well. But if you have questions, please unmute or post your message in the Zoom chat, and we'll try to address them. And what we don't know, we'll ask Justin and get you some answers. So yes, I appreciate that, Heidi. So we just got a demo on this, a larger demo on this a couple weeks ago. So we'll just kind of go through this together at a slow pace, and and ask questions along the way. What I did do though is I provided a slideshow out there for you guys. It is linked in the registration page. So if I go to our registration page in the SubHub demo, you'll see a materials area that you can go in and click on that, and it's going to take you to this SubHub presentation slide. So a lot of like just basic information in here in regards to more train-the-trainer type of information that you can share and pass on to your districts or tweak, make changes, but just some good base information to help you get started with SubHub. So our agenda today is we're going to just talk about the product in general, the USPS integration. We'll cover if it isn't required, but it does integrate with USPS. SubHub configuration, we'll talk about the options in the configuration menu. Not everything's there. We still have a lot to add. Again, why this is an early access preview of the application, but we'll talk about a couple of them that are different than what you're seeing in our other applications. So we'll go into a couple of those that are just SubHub specific. We'll get into the substitute management menu. So as a district person, ITC person, when you log into SubHub, there is a SubHub management menu that contains the substitutes, the sublist chains, and the actual sub requests that the district is able to manage. So this is not something that the substitutes would log into. So we're going to talk about that. So we're still on the district side of things. We'll talk about the sub-assignment workflow. What happens when they generate a leave request in ESS? ESS is required to use SubHub. So what happens when they generate that leave request in ESS? How does that flow into SubHub? How does the information then, after the assignment's been accepted, how does that sub information flow back into ESS? So we have a slide on that. Any behind the scenes error handling, we'll go into and just talk about that, more specific on the ESS side, and how you can, if a leave request fails to sync with SubHub, how you can go in and try to retry that process. So we'll talk about that. And then we'll flip over, starting with 7 here, on the substitutes experience and what they're going to see as to how to get notified of an opening, how to accept an opening, and that process. So we'll cover all of that. And then we'll get into the, we just have a slide on the sub coordinator's role in SubHub and what they can do. We'll talk about the ESS integration. This will probably be more of a recap because we'll be talking about the ESS integration as we're going through the process. And then the last few slides are known limitations. So they're known. So we've got JIRA issues for them, so we're working on them. But we wanted to bring the ones that are more concerning or will be done sooner rather than later. We want to discuss those. And also any future enhancements. I only have a handful of them listed, more of the more pressing ones that are going to be coming out soon as well. So we'll talk about those. And then the last slide is about ARIA and setting up your deployments in SubHub. I don't know all of the options that the ITCs have available in ARIA when they're setting up a testing deployment or a demo deployment. So I may need a little bit of feedback to make sure that I have all that correct on that slide. But you should be able to. I talked to Chad, and he has the SubHub in those different deployments. You can select on that to create a SubHub application. Obviously, there'll be empty applications, but it will have the application out there, so you can go in then as an ITC person and just get more comfortable. And that's what we're here for today. This isn't a training. This is just a preview of where it is right now, just so that you guys can get started then and go in yourself and get more familiar with the application and be able to go in as a sub quote and see what they see on their end. So that's what this session is for. We plan on doing another session at the end of June and then doing one also in July. So things are going to change between now and then. And so our sessions will probably be a little different. I think for the next session in June, we might focus more on the mobile part because we know that the subs are going to probably accept their position, open assignments on their phones. So we'll probably do more of a demo of that. We have some enhancements that are coming out that'll be more mobile friendly. And so I really didn't want to show you the mobile part today because on the sub side, we have a lot of changes. So I just don't want you to get locked in on how things look. And that's basically what this last bullet point says here. Let's focus on the concepts and the workflow, notification workflow, and not the screenshots. And there's no final design at this point. So we're just learning today. So let's get into it here. So in regards to SubHub, I mean, what is it? What's a one-line explanation of SubHub? So basically, it automates matching ESS leave requests that are marked as substitute needed with available substitutes to create those substitute postings and notifications in SubHub. So as I stated before, ESS is required to use this. USPS is optional, but it's supported. You can integrate with USPS. It uses a substitute list and list chains to drive those notification workflows. So what it's going to do is those list and list chains, if you're familiar with the groups and group chains in ESS and kind of how those work, this is a little bit similar. So the format looks very similar to what you see in ESS, so that helps, right? Some familiarity to it. And the application will continue to evolve during our pilot and early access phase. So right now we're in early access phase. And then as you are all aware of that we are having a pilot period starting in July. And an email went out to the directors regarding requests for districts that are interested in joining us in the pilot phase. So all of that information, if you need more information about that, please discuss that with your director. But yes, I haven't heard anything yet, an update on who is interested in joining our pilot, but that's how we're going to approach things this year. And then, go through a pilot period with them, where we're getting feedback from the districts, feedback from you guys, as you guys are learning the application yourself, so that we can make adjustments, additions, improvements to the software. So that's kind of where we're at right now with SubHub. So any questions before I begin here and get into the application? Okay. So one thing I did mention is USPS integration. So I want to talk about that because if they are going to integrate with payroll, there are some setup that needs to be done in USPS in order to integrate. And I've got them listed here on this slide. So the first thing is the employee record. So, when the sub, gets entered into the USPS system, just to ensure that at least one email address and the phone number is entered on the employee record in order for that substitute to be notified via email or text about available sub-assignments. So that's the purpose of just ensuring. I'm sure it's already in there when the sub's been added to payroll, but this is just a reminder that those are required. And then on the employee's position record, in order to sync the sub and determine which sub, list, or chain that needs to be used in SubHub, there are two things that need to be done. A substitute flag, there's a substitute flag that needs to be checked on the position, and also a position code needs to be entered. Now, if that isn't something that's normally been done in the past, that is a requirement. So that position code must be entered. So one thing that could be done is, to go into those at filter for your subs on the position grid, extract them out, go in and enable the substitute flag to true, the position code, enter in the code for the position, and then go into mass load and update, do a mass update on those records. So that's probably the fastest way to get that information in there. One other thing too is underneath core, under the codes, the building codes in particular, it should have an address entered in order for the sub locations to be visible on the sub request. So that way, when the sub accepts the request, they can see, where am I going? Where am I subbing? That address information for that building will be displayed on that. So not a whole lot at this point. Things could change, but this is where we're at right now with USPS integration. Any questions on that? Okay. The next thing I want to go in is to the, let me see where I'm at here on my slide, is the SubHub configuration. So I have bolded here the two that we're going to go into in more depth. Obviously, we don't have a whole lot on the configuration right now. So the things that aren't bolded are configuration options that you're already comfortable with. These are available in IPDIPI and ESS. So same type of setup with SubHub as well. The two that I want to go into more detail about are the one-time passcode setting and the urgency configuration. So I'm just going to move to the slide first, and then I can get into the program and show you where those are at. So the one-time passcode. So, and I think you guys are all aware of this already, but subs don't have a traditional user count in SubHub. So they are getting notifications on open assignments based on their email address and their phone number that's on their substitute record. So when a leave request is submitted and a sub is needed, based on it goes through that notification flow in SubHub, they will get an email or a text message, depending on what they have set up, with a link to view the open assignment. So because there's no like two-factor authentication that we have, when somebody actually logs into an application, we developed this one-time passcode option for the subs. So again, access is based on their email address and phone number. And so this is just a way for them to verify that they are the person that needs to see the sub assignment. And the passcode settings are as follows here, and they're pretty basic. And what we're seeing here is the default settings. So basically, what happens is for this first one, so when they click on that link in their email to view the actual notification or the actual open assignment, they're first going to get a window prompt asking them to send the one-time passcode to them. So it's going to send it via email or text, and then they'll get another email with the passcode. It's about a 6-digit passcode, and then they can copy that and paste it into that other window where it's prompting them to enter the passcode. And I'll show you that here in a little bit once we get in there. But they have 10 minutes then from before that passcode expires. That's how this is set up. Obviously, these are the default values. The district can change any of these, adjust these values if they need to. But at that point, when I get that email to enter in my passcode, I've got 10 minutes to put it in there. So if for some reason I put in something wrong, I have 3 chances to make it right. So these are my passcode entry attempts down here, and they could adjust those as well. And then this last one here, I guess the middle one, is the number of passcode requests per hour. So that's the maximum number of codes a substitute can request in an hour. So if they're just having a bad day, then they have 10 attempts for the passcode to be reset. So that's kind of what this one-time passcode configuration will do. So like I said, these are defaults. The district can change these settings if they need to. But this helps with kind of that more of an additional security level for subs when they're trying to access these open assignments. And when we go in to actually accept an assignment here a little bit later, I'll take you through that and you'll be able to see. These slides are more for just you guys have the base information so that you can, use these in your trainings with your districts. The urgency configuration, that's the next one I want to talk about. And that's another configuration setting. And the developers did an excellent job of explaining it in here. And so this is just basically to mark the email, whether it's an urgent notification or not. So basically what this is saying in this example here, they provided an example, is we have an urgent notification hours and we have a no notification hours. So we really have 2 different settings in here. So urgent notification is 48 hours, no notification is 24. So it states right here, leave request submitted 36 hours in advance would trigger an urgent notification, while the leave request submitted 12 hours in advance would trigger no notification. So what I did is I created a scenario in the documentation that helps explain this a little bit further, like with an example. So I'm going to go into, I may have this pulled up. I do. I'm going into our urgency configuration in the documentation, and I've got a scenario down here. I'm going to pull this up here and just explain how these work, okay? So my example here is I have a second shift custodian, works 3 to 11. So a leave request is submitted at 9 in the morning on Monday the 11th for a shift that begins Tuesday at 3 p.m. So that's within 30 hours of when that shift will begin. So that is going to trigger an urgent notification in the notification that gets sent to the subs. So because it's between the 24 and the 48-hour window. So it's considered an urgent notification. So if that same request is submitted at 9 a.m. on Tuesday for their shift on Tuesday at 3 p.m., that is less than 24 hours advance notification. So what that means is that no notification will be sent. So it's less than the 24-hour notification. So at that point, that's where the district would need to contact the subs manually. They need to go in and, call, do whatever they need to in order to find a sub for that day. So if that same request was submitted the Friday before, on the 8th, that's more than 48 hours in advance. And the sub is just going to receive a standard notification then. It's not going to be labeled urgent. It's just going to be their regular notification. So that's how these urgency configurations play in with how a sub gets notified of an opening. So one thing I want to stress in that is that the notification behavior is also dependent on the hours in advance in the substitute list chain. So I was testing this out yesterday and I ran into a situation and I confirmed with the development team on this. But in the same situation here, if the leave request, in our first bullet here, was submitted 30 hours before the actual time that they need the sub, right? So that was our first bullet. It triggers an urgent notification. However, on my hours in advance on the sub list chain, which we'll go into the sub list chains in a little bit here, I have that it shows 48 hours in advance. How long in advance a leave request must be submitted for this chain to be used. So even though I've got those urgency configurations, I also have this hours in advance setting on my sublist chain, and it says it's got to be 48 hours in advance. This is only 30. So because of that, it will not notify the subs because it doesn't meet this. So this is where I am still, haven't totally tested this. I'm assuming that there's some kind of message or error or some kind of notification that is sent on, I'm assuming on the ESS side to let them know that the notification will not be sent because it doesn't meet this hours in advance. I do know that there is an actual error that gets generated in the SubHub application log, and it shows you right here. And it does explain it pretty well. It says the substitute request occurs before the no notification setting in the urgency configuration, but no substitute list chain is eligible for use because it's only 30 hours in advance, and this requires it to be 48 hours. So I put this in here for a reason. It's just, to let you know that this does impact that as well, to make sure, if they are creating, a list chain in the hours in advance, it does have an impact on, subs getting notifications. So I hope that makes sense. It's something to just digest, but Basically, my tip here is the urgency configuration controls the notification type, but this hours in advance, and this substitute list chain controls whether notifications can be sent at all. That makes sense. I do have a question here. Would a leave have to be through the entire approval process before it becomes an urgent request? It does not. The leaves do not have to be approved. They just have to be initiated, Brenda. So it goes out right away. You're welcome. Okay, going back. As you can see, I'm doing my snail's pace today, but just good to just kind of process some of this. And so, yeah, I just wanted to point out those two configuration options. And like I said, it's going to change if I go back to our documentation here and go up to our configuration options. Like I said, this is what we have so far. Oh, I forgot to link the OTP. I'll make sure to do that. But we have several more that are going to be added. And if you guys haven't looked at the JIRA issues out there yet, underneath SubHub, now that we're kind of like in an actual formal release, early access release, 2026.2.0, I think was the last one. So you can look at, our actual release notes. And you can also, like I said, go into the actual project in JIRA, kind of review where we're at and what's being assigned for the next release. Can this be configured so personal and vacation leave have to be approved before becoming urgent, but sick is automatic? That's a good question, Tanya. I don't know if we have anything out there and an existing JIRA issue for that, but we'll make note of that and bring it to our next sprint meeting and see if that's something that is considered a feedback issue or if it's an actual core project issue at the time. Thank you. Okay, I'm going to go back to my slideshow here. And so the next thing I want to get into is I actually want to go in and start demoing some of this for you. And right now we're going to focus on, again, we're still on kind of on the district side of things. And I want to log in as a district person, or I can just log in as the admin and take you through the substitute management menu. So this consists of the substitute grid where all of the subs live. And these subs can be synced from USPS and pulled in. So once they're set up in USPS with the integration requirements that we have for SubHub, there is a substitute sync at the top of the substitute grid that'll pull them in. We also have a substitute list. And again, kind of like the groups in ESS. And this is the group of substitutes based on criteria such as position code. So this list determines notification eligibility for the sub request. I'll get into that here in a little bit. The substitute list chain then is going to take those sub lists and sequence them to control how and when those assignments are notified to the different groups. So this is the one that seems to be probably the most complex, is the substitute list chains, and we are going to go into detail on that. And I think it's one where people might be, concerned that, do I need that level of first go to this set of custodians, elementary building for the first 6 hours, and then I want to go to this sub list for the next 4 hours, and then I want it to go to this set of subs for the remainder. Do they want to get into that level of detail? If they don't, we do have a feature configuration option that's going to simplify that. And I think it's basically going to hide those advanced timing controls so that, if you just want to set up the sub list chain to say for this particular group of subs, just send it out to all of them at once. We can do that. And so we do have a future JIRA issue to help out with that if the district wants to go that route. And then the last thing on the substitute management manual is the substitute request grid. So this is all of the leave requests that have come over with substitute needed. And this is a nice grid for like the sub-coordinator or district manager, just to look and see where we at with everything. You know, how many have been filled, you know, that have a sub assigned to them, how many are still outstanding. Do we need to go in and assign one ourselves in there? They can do that. So lots of different things. I'll show you that here in a little bit. But that's basically what the management menu will do. So let's dig into these here. I'm going to go into, I don't think I have screenshots. Nope, go into those. So I am logged in underneath the admin account into SubHub. And so I'm talking about this menu right here, the substitute management menu. And so I'm going to go to the substitutes. And here are my subs that I currently have in the system. So whether I've added them manually by using the create or whether they've been synced with USPS, they get pulled in here. And so I just want to look at one of these to show you what all is in here. So I'm going to go into Abby Carey here. And so what is required is anything that has a little bullet next to it. So we have first name, last name are required. And like I said before, an email address and a phone number. So if this is getting pulled over from USPS, as long as it has at least one of those email addresses filled in, the primary one, I believe, will get pulled in here by default. And then all those other ones will get populated here. And then the other thing that is the most important is the position code. So it'll pull in the position code, obviously, from payroll. But if you're creating this manually, you need to assign a position code. So this is something where there's a select option that they can go in and select that. So Abby Carey is a sub custodian. So she has a position code of the custodian assignment, 902. And so those are the only things that are stored then on the actual sub. And so, you know, I've got a bunch of them out here. And as far as their preferences and whether they get email notification or text notifications, that's on the substitute side. And we'll go into that here in a little bit later, where Abby could go in and make changes to her notifications, her window of when she wants to receive notifications and stuff like that. So we'll cover that here in a little bit. Any questions on the substitute grid before I move on to sub list? Okay, I'm going to go into sub lists. And so these are the sub lists that I have created so far, and some of these aren't even in use. I was just kind of playing around in there and getting one of them to work, basically. And so I'm going to just pick on the elementary one. That's the one I did set up. And I just want to show, you know, what all is in here when you create a sub list. So let's go into the elementary custodians here. And so obviously I'm giving it a name, and then I'm assigning the position code. So again, this is the custodian position. So this is, you know, required. So I need to set that in. And then I need to enter in the subs that are supposed to get this notification so that it knows what email or phone number for it to go to. And so in here, the substitutes I select are based off of the position code that I have entered in here. And I can enter in more than one in here. I just don't have to have one in here. So when I go and click on the substitutes, I'm only going to see subs that have a position code in their substitute record of 902. And I should take a step back there. When we were in the substitute, I could add more than one position code in there. This Abby only had custodian, but if she's also a teacher's aide, I could put that in there as well. So I've just got the position code, so I only have these. So if Al Smith's position is a teacher's aide, I'm not going to see Al in here because I'm only looking at position codes of custodian assignment. So I go in, and this is very similar to groups in ESS, where I select what I want, click on add, and it displays that sub in here. So nice and clean. So as you can see, the only thing stored on the sub list is the position code and the sub. There is no department, there is no building, nothing like that. It's just the position code and the sub. Okay, cancel out of that. And so the next thing I'm going to do then is I want to go into the list chains because this is where it groups those sub lists I just created in order of priority of how this district wants those subs to be notified, in what order. And so I have a sub list chain tied to that substitute list. And so I'm just going to go ahead and go in here so you guys can see what all is happening here. And like, you know, and I know Justin noted, said this as well on Wednesday session, that this one is a little more complex. So we got a lot going on here. First off, we have to name the substitute list chain. That's required. And then we do have to have the hours in advance. Now, we talked about this a little bit ago when we were going over the urgency configuration. So, you know, basically this chain, if I've got 48 hours, will only be used if the leave request is submitted at least 48 hours in advance of the assignment. So that basically, and we have a little text tooltip kind of thing to help you guys out with what this means. And then the other required field is the position code. So again, I'm putting in the custodian agreement. I can add more than one, but this is the one that I have for this list chain. And then from there, I also have optional steps to also filter by building code and department code. So if they want to filter this more by only bringing in from those leave requests, those for a certain building, to be included on this sublist chain, then I can put that in here. I think we may have a bug right now with this, and it may not be working quite the way we want it to. What happened is, and I was testing this out, I have an ESS leave request for, you know, a custodian who needs a day off, and they're under the position code of 902, because remember, when you're creating the leave request, obviously, you know, you're selecting the position. And with that position, it does link the building and department codes that are tied to that position in ESS. But the thing is, if their building code for that position was actually, let's say, 500, it's the high school building, and not 200, the elementary. It is still allowing them to get notified on this list chain, and I don't believe it's supposed to work that way. If I put in a building code, it should only include and notify for that building as well. So that's something, you know, right now that we're looking into to see if there's an actual problem with the building codes, and it's just not filtering the way it should be. And same for department codes. I'm not sure about that one. But again, these are just optional. What's required is the name, the hours in advance, the position code, and then from there, I'm going in and selecting the sublist based on that. So it's just going to pull in those particular lists. And I've got elementary, high school, and junior high. Well, this is the elementary one. I want them to have first dibs. So I pull them in, and they're priority one here. And then after they get the notification, then I want the junior high sublist to get it, and then the high school. But it all depends here on what I have for hours available. This isn't required. You don't have to put in, you know, an actual number. It can just be 0. But basically what it says right here is what it's doing. the number of hours this list has access to the request before making it available to the next list. So if I go in and create a leave request as a sub at 10 a.m., then what happens then from 10 a.m. until 4 p.m., it's going to notify the custodians. They're the only ones in the elementary sublist that have access to those notifications. They're the only ones that get sent notifications during that window. So after the 6 hours then, so at 4 o'clock, it'll send the next notification to both the junior high and high school sublist. I don't have any hours available here, so it's going to send it to both lists at the same time. So if I wanted to be a little more detailed here and say I want the junior high to have it for 4 hours next, and then the high school sublist to have it after that, then I could put in 6, 4, and 2. So the elementary subs get notified at 10 in the morning, and then the junior high get notified at 4 in the afternoon, and then the high school gets notified at 8 o'clock that night. So that's how that works. And as I said in the slide there, is that if they don't want to have all of this detailed and just want to send it out to all 3, I mean, they could mark this as 0 on all 3. And it will just send them all out at once. But if they don't even want to have these particular sort orders and stuff, like I said, we do have a feature enhancement to make it a more simplified list chain. Okay, any questions about the sublist chain? I know, just kind of soaking it all in. Hopefully that helps explain it a little bit more. Okay, so we're going to move on to the sub requests. So this is where all of the sub requests are shown. We have a nice grid here, and I believe we have maybe some more columns that are going to be added, and I'm not sure if I even have all of them selected here. Let me go over the more option, and I do. But in here, it displays all of the sub requests that are sitting out there. And just to show you the filters here under the status, they're either pending, they're accepted, or they're canceled. So, and we do have this all written out in the documentation. So right now, all of mine haven't been, a sub hasn't taken a spot yet. They haven't been assigned yet. So they're all showing as pending. I do have a canceled one here. And that's because the leave requester, the actual employee that requested the leave request, he canceled the leave request. So that's going to cancel the sub-assignment as well. So that's why that shows as canceled. So because I have admin access here, I've got all the power to go in and make changes or delete these if I need to. I believe the sub-coordinator role has the same capabilities. But you know, if for some reason the sub-coordinator would need to come in here and edit one of these, let me show you what they actually can edit. So if I go in and click on edit, there's really nothing they can do other than assign the sub. So they can either go in and assign a sub, or they can remove the sub if it's already been accepted. So I can go in here, pull in, and click and assign a sub. And I believe when that happens too, that they are going to get notified. The sub will get notified that this position was accepted. So those same notifications that happen when a sub actually accepts the position are going to go out. Thanks, Amanda. I know this is random, but I like the color. So do I. You know what? That was a big discussion topic at one of our sprints, just saying that, we were trying to come up with a good color. So thank you for saying that you like it. Appreciate it. Just wait till we get into the open assignments. Those colors are even nicer. Okay. So yeah, so this, houses all of the current subs. So obviously, once a sub goes in and accepts an assignment, it'll automatically update the grid here to show that they accepted it, and it will include the sub's name in here. Okay. So I think we're going to move on then. Any questions? Oh, let me back up, sorry. Any questions on any of these substitute management options before we move on to the next slide? Okay. So the next one here, this is just kind of a recap of what happens during, the whole process of when the leave request gets submitted to how it gets assigned. So it's just more of just a informational slide. So, but I just wanted to cover it just so, everyone's more familiar with how the workflow is designed. So the employee creates the leave request in ESS. Obviously, they're selecting the leave type, the position, all the things, start date, and start and end times. And the crucial thing is the substitute needed. So they need to make sure that that's checked. I know we have some configuration options in ESS that allows you to automate that substitute needed. So it's automatically always checked for like classified staff or certified staff and stuff like that. So, so if they forget, there are ways in ESS to make that be checked or enabled by default. So once that's submitted, the sub-assignment is automatically generated. And so the SubHub posts the assignment on its side. The request becomes an open assignment, and it gets tracked in SubHub just where we were at in that grid I just showed you. And more importantly, the notifications are sent to the subs based on the configured list chains that they have out there. Do I want it to go to the elementary subs first, and then the junior high, and then the high school? All of that spelled out in the sub lists and list chains. So everyone gets their notifications. And then from there, the substitute accepts the assignment. So the sub will get the email with the link, and from there, they can then click on that. They go through the OTP passcode thing. They get in there, and they're able to view the assignment for that particular employee and get to see, when it is and the time. And so they'll be able then to accept that assignment, or they can reject that assignment if they're not interested. And then after that, the assignment then syncs back to ESS. So if they accept it, then what happens is it fills it in SubHub with the sub's information, their name and stuff like that. And then it also goes back into ESS. And if you look at that leave request, it'll have the sub's information in there as well. So that's kind of the whole flow here. All right. Next is, this is just a behind the scenes, and this is more on the ESS side of things and how it handles syncing the leave request into SubHub. So you will notice on the ESS sub-coordinators grid and the view district lead grid that there is going to be a SubHub sync status. So probably need to add it underneath the more option. But the different status codes are either synced, failed, or not applicable. So obviously, if it isn't a sub-needed leave request, the status will be not applicable. If it's synced, they submitted the leave request, sub-needed, and it went through okay, it's going to show as synced. But if for some reason it failed, then it will have a failed status in here. And those notifications and stuff like that do go out for that. We do have options in here that allow you to try to resubmit it after you figured out why it didn't submit properly. It could be a missing building code, a missing position code. We'll document, some of these reasons why. We'll add that to the documentation so that you guys can see, well, why didn't it? And plus, the app logs should have that information as well. So maybe there wasn't a substitute list chain configured for it or something like that. So any type of failures, need to be resolved. And what can be done then, if you're in a hurry, is you can select those particular leave requests by checking the box over here on the left-hand side and click on the resubmit to SubHub, and it will try to resubmit it to SubHub right away. But we do have an automatic retry. I think that happens every 5 to 10 minutes. So if you're not in a hurry and you want it to retry on its own, then we do have that set up on the back end. Okay. Before we move on to the substitute experience, any questions regarding the district side of things with the substitute management? Great, thank you for putting that in there. Okay, well, let's move on then. So this is where I'm actually going to get in here and try to demo some of this and hope that it works. So it worked for me when I was trying it out this week. So give me a minute here, something to drink. Okay. I think I'm on slide 12 here is where we're at. So on the substitute side of things, so we've got a SubHub user manual designed for the districts, and then we have a substitute guide intended for the subs. So two separate manuals that are out there, and I'll just show you quick where those are at. So if I go up to our SubHub Ohio documentation, we've got a big draft form here, just letting you know this is a work in progress. It is going to change for both of these. But here is our user guide, and then here is our substitute guide. And so we're going to go through the steps here on how they get notified, how they accept an assignment, how they reject or decline. We're kind of working on verbiage on that right now. We're not sure what we're going to use. I think right now it's reject, but I think we might be working towards decline. So I think that's why we put it in there like that. And then how the sub, and that's all via their notification links, whether they get notified in an email or whether they get notified in a text. They'll be able to access that link to go in and accept an assignment or decline an assignment. But then they also have an opportunity to actually go in and log in via that OTP passcode and as well and see their actual accepted assignments in a SubHub screen. So we're going to go through all of that. So let me go back. So what happens then is once that leave request is submitted and it goes through the sub lists and the subs get notified, here's kind of an example of how that email looks. It basically says a substitute is needed at this district on this day. And I believe we're going to, a future enhancement is include the time and a few more details on the actual email. So please use the following link to view the request details. So this is where it happens then for that sub. They click on this link, they'll go through the one-time passcode, and then once they get through that, they'll then be able to go in and look at that actual sub request. So I'm going to take you to that first. So I did some the other day, and those sub links should still work. So I'm going to try it out here and make sure I move this over to this screen so you can see it. So I've got an email with a link. And basically, I see the same thing here. I'm going to click on this link, and then I'm going to move it over so you guys can see what happens here. So it's first going to verify my identity. So this is the one-time passcode I was talking about. So this sub has my email address. I'm the sub. And so I click on that, and I'm going to get another message here shortly, and it's going to have my OTP code on it. And so, and it's very basic. All it says is your OTP code is, and it gives me the code. That's the only thing that's on the email. And so I'm going to basically copy that code. And in my configuration, I got 10 minutes to get this done. So no pressure. And I go in and I paste that code in here to verify, and voila, I'm in. And so this is where then I can see the sub request. And if I want to accept this, available is in yellow here, very pretty colors. That was another conversation during the sprint. But in here then, it shows me the employee I will be subbing for, the actual assignment, and this screen is going to change. We're going to have more details in here, but this is how it is. This is how it looks right now. And it looks like she only has 1 day on this leave request. And it shows me the actual date. So they need a sub on June 1st from 7 to 3 for the full day. Now, yes, will there be a way for me to only accept half a day? Yes, we don't have that in place right now, but that is a future enhancement. Also, if I had 5 days labeled here, can I just accept the first 2 days and not the last 3? Yes, the sub will be able to do that as well. So I'm going to click on available just to select it, and then I'm going to click on accept selected. And then I like that it has a confirmation box. Are you sure you want to accept this? And I click on yes. And then it changes it from that yellow to a green to say, it's yours. You're going to, you accepted this position. And at that point too, I will also get another email saying, and I want to show you this. So let me pull this over here. So make this bigger for you guys. And so basically it's saying that I have accepted this position, and all of the details are down here. So I am going to be working for Kristen Miranda. It's a custodial assignment, and it's on June 1st from 7 to 3. And we also have a little disclaimer here. If this was not done by you, please contact the school district. And in here as well, depending on what type of calendar, Google, or whatever interface you're using, I've set it up with Google Calendar. I can add it to my calendar then, which is really nice, because if a sub is going out and accepting assignments at different school districts, they all can be added to the same calendar that the sub has so that they can see the different assignments. So I can add that to the calendar. It's in my calendar now, and all is right with the world. So I'm officially accepted that assignment. Any questions about that process of accepting the assignment? So, when they click on that link, it takes them into a view to view everything. I'm going to try one more here. Let's see. Let me try this one. I think this is a multi-day request, and it is. So, and one thing too is that, I'll move this over here as well. You'll notice that it shows you administrator account. That's just because I'm in and out of both the admin account and the substitute account. So this really should, be the actual user's account. So I forgot to log off of the other account beforehand, so I apologize for that. The substitute will not see this information here, and I'm going to try this again. I'm going to X out of here, and I'm going to log out of here. And then I'm going to try to refresh and see if that helps. All right, try this again, verify my identity. Got my OTP code, paste that in. There we go. That's what the sub should show. It should show her name down here. And then here are her options. She is going to have a notification preferences option and the accepted request information as well. So that's kind of what she will be seeing. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just log off of that for a minute. And now that I'm all logged out, I believe, of every possible application, I'm going to try this one more time. I'm going to X out of that one. And I'm going to go back in and try to look at that request again. Aha, perfect. Bring that over. So that second notification request that I'm Abby, that I got for another open position was for Levi Barton. So the first one was for Miranda, and then this one was for Levi Barton. Again, another custodian. And this is for the leave request that he submitted was for 5 days, one leave request for 5 days. And so I don't have to accept them all. I can, accept the first two because those are the days that I can sub for him. And I don't have to accept the others. If I want to reject the entire thing, I can do that too. And what that does, it doesn't cancel. It just means that Abby, me, I will not receive notification about this particular sub-assignment anymore. So that's basically what that reject will do. So we've got select all, deselect all kinds of options in here. And like I said, this will change a little bit, based on some future enhancements that we're doing to it, but this is kind of where it's at right now. So again, I could go in and just select the first two if I wanted to, and accept those, and then it does say, are you sure you just want to do Monday and Tuesday? Yes. And so it'll say accepted by you. If I don't want to get a notification for these other three, I can select those and say reject, and it's just going to reject those three. You will receive no further notification about these requests. Are you sure you want to reject them? Correct. So, and then I get a little operation successful notification up here at the top. So that's where that is at. So that's how that looks. So any questions in regards to accepting an assignment? So slide 13 here just goes in and just explains how they go in and accept an open assignment, and just some important notes when they do accept it. So that's what that goes into. Slide 14 just talks about how you reject an open assignment. So again, this is rejecting it. It's not canceling it. So it just stops for future notifications for this particular posting. And then I wanted to make a note here, and I think I said this already, is that we are working on the verbiage on this, and we're not sure if we're going to be changing some of this, so it will be refined in a future enhancement. So kind of where we're at right now with that. Okay, so I'm still logged in as Abby somewhere. Here I am. And so, I accepted a couple of those and I rejected the other three. And I'm in my substitute access, really. So one thing that substitutes can do, instead of just clicking on the link in an email to actually access the open assignment, or to actually access available assignments, what they can do as well is on the home page, they have an option here called substitute access that'll take them through the OTP verification again, but it'll allow them then to log in to SubHub to see their accepted requests. So what we've been doing is just looking at available requests. Well, now I want to see, a format of what did I accept and what didn't I for this district. Plus, Abby can also go in and update her notification preferences. So let's talk about what the sub is seeing when they go in to access this information. So let's go into the notification preferences first. And so Abby can go in and either send email notifications and or send text notifications. So it just depends on how they want to receive their notifications about an open job. So I just have send email right now. We do not have text notifications in place yet. So that's not even anything that can work at this moment. But one thing I want to just between us, at ITCs, is when you're in here and doing testing and the send text notification, that you have to be very careful once that is an option, because you get charged for every text that's sent. So when testing and things like that, it's just real important that we're not going in and sending a bunch of texts that are just testing text. So that's just something to keep in mind. I got a question here, just because I know we are going to get this question. If a sub changes their mind, can they accept assignment and they had rejected? I don't, at this point, I don't think so, because once they reject it, they're not going to see it anymore. I'll have to ask about that if we're going to have some type of option that allow them to go back in. I'm thinking we've had that question already, Heidi, but we'll look into that. We might have a JIRA issue for that already.
I just didn't know. I know it stops the notifications from coming, but I didn't know if it also stopped them from accepting it again. You know what I mean?
Right. So
And
I'm
Michelle,
not, oh,
sorry,
oh,
Michelle. Yeah, I was just gonna say if you for the ones you rejected, if you go back in there, we can take a look because I thought it was actually just disabling notifications, but I didn't think it prevented it from still showing, but maybe I'm incorrect on that.
well, I would have to go in and actually go into that same,
Yeah, you just have to click on that email link again,
yeah,
basically.
let me see. I think it was this one. Let me bring that over again. Okay. So it looks like, I'm sorry, I can still, I just don't get the notification anymore. Gotcha.
Yeah, now what we don't have is a way to like re-enable notifications. However, I assume that if they actually accepted that request, they would obviously, that's something I should probably verify with Justin. But they should get at least the accepted email, regardless of if they had previously disabled notification for that request. So I'll make a note of that and ask him. But yeah, they can accept it after they've essentially disabled notifications for it.
All right. So going back to the notification preferences. So what she can set up, like I said, is whether she gets notified via email or text. And then she has a notification window that she can select as well. Do I just want to get notified within this time frame? And so obviously she can put that in there. She wants it from 7 in the morning until 10 o'clock at night to get notified, but she doesn't want notifications to go off on her phone from 11 to 6 in the morning. It doesn't mean that she is never going to see those. She's just not going to see those notifications in this window of time. So once she's back in, and this is opened up, she will be getting the notifications regarding those open positions. It's just that she won't get notified from, like this example, 3:30 in the afternoon until 7:30 in the morning. Also, blackout dates. If there are certain dates that she doesn't want to get notifications because she's on vacation or she took another job, extended period in another district, then she can put in blackout dates here. And I must have been playing around in here and I did the whole summer. So, but you can see where I can remove them all as well. So I must have put in a range from June 1st all the way down to middle of August, probably. So yes, so they can enter in more than one blackout date if they need to. Okay. Now let's go into the accepted requests. So here is our grid that we have right now, which I believe is going to change. So it's a little more mobile friendly, but it does show the actual positions that sub-assignments that I accepted. And so in here, I can go in and view them. So I accepted just those 2 days from that 5-day one that Levi had. And I accepted that one for Kristen for that 1 day. And I can just click on this to view it. And it tells me, you know, the ones that I accepted. If I go back and I just want to look at Kristen's, and then I can see that. And so one thing I want to make note of is that, you know, when I was reviewing Kristen's here and it said, you know, accepted, and then I've got their rejected option in here, that isn't going to be a way for them to cancel. At this point, we are working on making this different, and we will have the capability, I think, to do this all in the same screen, so you can accept, reject, and you can cancel an already accepted job. So right now, the only way to cancel a job that you already accepted is to use this cancel option here. And so when you do that, it's going to, you know, confirm, are you sure you want to cancel this accepted request? And when I click yes, then it will cancel it. It gets thrown back into the pool of open assignments for everyone else to see. And I'm no longer going to be subbing for that position, basically. But like I said, this screen is going to change. So don't, you know, memorize it, because we are going to be improving it. Okay. And then there is a help option in here too, where it takes them to the substitute guide. We have a documentation area that'll link it to the substitute guide in case they want to go in there and look up some information. So that's kind of what the substitute will see at this point when they go in to view their accepted requests. All right, any questions on that before we move on? And these next few slides are just going over some of the stuff that we just covered, we just demoed. So manage notification preferences. So again, these are just train the trainer materials for you to take and tweak and do whatever you want to with on these different steps of how a sub accepts the open positions.
And Michelle, just real quick, I did confirm with Justin that in that instance where they have previously rejected / really disabled notifications for requests, if they go in and accept that request post that point, they do still get notifications in that case for the accepted request. Just they wouldn't get any additional automatic notifications that may be sent out regarding that.
Thank you. The next slide just talks about the SubHub coordinator's role. And so, so somebody that has the sub coordinator role, what they can do in SubHub. So again, this is just more of a recap of what they're able to do. So again, they can go in and underneath the sub management menu, they can monitor the sub requests that have come in. And if they need to go in and actually assign one themselves, they can underneath that grid. And they can also clear assigned sub requests. They can unassign substitutes. It'll revert that request, throw that back out into the pool, and that will now be a pending request again. So yeah, it just kind of explains their role. Not a whole lot of roles in the actual SubHub. You got a user role, which I'm not 100% sure what all that does yet at this point. The SubHub role, district manager role, and admin. Those are the main ones. Okay, moving on here. So this just talks about the ESS integration. Again, this is more of a recap, just, explaining how it flows. The substitute accepts in SubHub. It automatically populates the substitute information in ESS. So the subcoordinator and district lead views display those assigned sub details. So yeah, I don't think I went back in there after I accepted that. So let me go into ESS here. One of my many. I'm just going to go in as admin here. Now I'm going to pick on one of those leave requests. I think one of them was Kristen Miranda, and I believe it was this one right here. And if I go over, you'll see, just going over to the way far right side here, underneath her request here, that it shows that it was synced. And then again, if I go in and actually view that, it should populate with the subs information. And maybe we don't have that working quite yet, or I've got something wrong with that. But it should have populated it with Abby's information in here. And that's maybe a work in progress, but that's the intention.
Yeah, that is in place. I'm not sure what happened in this particular instance, but that is working. I mean, that is something Justin actually demoed on Wednesday. But we are improving that, because currently I believe it's like a list of if it's a multi-day request, it's not really great because all of the subs are sort of contained at the top level. And the intention is to move that information into the kind of daily details area so that you can see on a per day basis who has that particular request. So that is something that we're working on, yeah, prior to us launching pilot.
So yeah, as Matt said, this information down here with all the sub information, we're basically going to move that over to the daily details. So it'll be listed in here in case, like in our example with Levi, she accepted the first two, but not the other three. And then her information for those first 2 days will be supplied and displayed underneath those particular days in the daily details. Okay. And then we've got just some information here regarding current limitations, which we just talked about. The one about moving the substitute details to individual days for multi-day requests. Another current limitation that obviously we know about is being unable to split a single day leave assignment amongst multiple subs. So that's a future enhancement as well. And like I said, those known limitations that we've had discussions with and are currently working on is the mobile grid experience needs to be improved and optimized. So, and like I said at the beginning, I'm hoping then maybe at our next training we can kind of focus more on the mobile part of it, so you guys can kind of see what it looks like on the substitute side when they accept it via their phone. The email, SMS notifications are basically default templates. We don't have the texting in place yet, but that's coming soon. Like I said, some of our terminology needs to be refined. And also ESS workflows currently require separate SubHub instances per district. So that's something we are very much aware of. And if I go into the next slide, down here, it kind of explains that in a little more detail. So we know that they just want one SubHub instance connected to multiple ESS, USPS districts so that ESCs can manage substitute calling from one single location. We totally understand that. So that's something that is planned post the initial rollout here. So something that is going to be worked on during that time. So at this point, if an ESC wants to be in the pilot, I don't believe that's going to be an option at this point at the beginning of the pilot period. And just a handful of some other future enhancements in case you guys were wondering about some of these. Being able to mass load subs that are not maintained in USPS. Is there a way they'll be able to do that in the future? Yes. If you're not syncing with USPS, there is a way to do that. Automatic reminders and repeat notifications for unfilled assignments. So if an assignment doesn't get filled, it's going to send out another batch of reminders, saying, hey, this hasn't been filled yet. Yes. Being able to customize your email and text notification templates. That is going to be a configuration option. We are going to have a report out there as well about unfilled substitute requests. So that is something that we're going to provide. Being able to split a full day assignment. Mobile-friendly calendar views, in particular, with the subs on their end. Instead of seeing a grid, they'd see it more in a calendar mode. Being able to extract the subs information in order and what they worked in order to direct post into USPS. Yes, that is a future enhancement as well. Improving our errors and stuff like that. I know we'll probably get some weird errors and validation messages that just don't quite make sense when you're processing in there, and obviously those will get cleaned up as well. And like I said before about that simplified list chain configuration when we were there, how to just make it more streamlined so that all the subs in that list chain get notified at once. So those are just some of the many enhancements that we have that we're currently working on. And this is where, I kind of want your feedback if I have this right. Because like I said, I don't see your deployment options. Ours are different than yours. But if you're just, after this, you're just so excited, you want to go out there and start creating a SubHub deployment, I believe that the test deployment and the demo deployment are the ones that you would want to use. I did talk to Chad, and he said he did put SubHub in as options in those deployments. So he did tell me the training deployment SubHub is not currently available in there. So I believe, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe in your test deployment, you're required to select a district. And if so, it's going to use a copy of that district's ESS and USPS data. If you choose to select ESS, USPS, probably workflows, you're going to need to do that one, and SubHub. So it'll populate, the ESS and USPS with the district's data, but the SubHub instance is going to be empty. You're going to have to go in and create sublists and all of that good stuff. But you got real data from a district that you can use then to help. So when you're going in and creating leave requests, it's, the district's a backup of the district's data, and you can go in and create leave requests to, start populating that stuff in SubHub. So if that is wrong, let me know, but I believe that's what that test deployment will do. Whereas the demo deployment, so the test deployment has real data for payroll and ESS. So you won't want to be using that in a training, obviously, but the demo deployment is the one that you probably want to use for demos. Because I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, this option, again, you'll have an empty SubHub application. Your ESS instance will be blank as well, no data in there. And then, but I believe it uses our generic USPS data for the USPS instance, I'm pretty sure. So you could pull subs in from that generic USPS, basically what I was showing you guys today. And populate the subs in SubHub with that. But you do have to do some setup in ESS. We don't have like a generic database that you guys can use for ESS. We've never had the chance to set that up. So if I'm wrong on that, let me know. But I believe, these are the, two ways that you can go about doing this. For your own, benefit, I would use a test deployment to just play around with it and get comfortable with it and start learning SubHub. But for demos, you'll want to use the demo deployment. Matt, did you have something?
Yeah, sorry. I just wanted to interject and just advise caution with the test deployment. Certainly you can use those, but if you're going to do so, you would want to create, a specific user account in that test data that is, you, and or if you're going to use an actual person that exists out there, ensure that you clear out their email addresses, right? And enter in some sort of fictitious or your email address or whatever, because as soon as the leave is created in ESS, it's obviously going to go into SubHub and start sending notifications. So we just don't want inadvertently, sending notifications to actual people, and then they're very confused in terms of what's going on. So that would be the only thing to be careful of with that real data, is just making sure you're not inadvertently notifying actual people in the test deployment.
You guys have any questions about this? Okay, well, if you don't have any other questions in general, I did provide some support resources, our user manual, the substitute guide, our new district checklist. One thing I wanted to mention while you're all on here is that, and I believe it was discussed in another one of our Fridays with Fiscal, is that we do have an area now in the wiki for implementing state software. So I'm just going to do a search here. And it's called Implementing State Software New or Conversion. So we've moved all of the new district checklists, how to set up an application, into this more restricted area for ITC staff. So you all should have access to this. But in here, we provided every new district checklist for every application in here. And we've included the SubHub new district checklist here. And so also on this page, we do have specific information about conversions. So for those ITCs that are going through an EFP conversion right now, they have this page to kind of work through that. But yes, all of these new district checklists, if I go to the SubHub one, they're all formatted the same way. We wanted to keep them consistent amongst all applications. So you'll see like a table of contents up here, and then just some notes, and then it'll go through each of the steps, just so you can like check those off as you go. Each one of our checklists also has an actual spreadsheet that you can download. And this is, helpful when you're going through this with the districts. You can download and share this with them and go through the steps on how to do a checklist or to go through the checklist for setting up their application. So yeah, just some things I wanted to share with you in regards to something new that we just did recently. Let's see. I don't see any other questions. You guys are funny in the chat here. So great. Thank you, you guys. If you guys don't have any other questions, I think we're good. We do plan on demoing this again next month and in July. So like I said, the one in June, maybe we'll, obviously go through some of the changes that have been made, probably tweak this PowerPoint, and then on and maybe focus more on some of the mobile parts of it. And then July 17th, we will have another session on SubHub again. Just, if you haven't gotten enough yet, then you can go to that one too. So I appreciate everyone joining the call, and this is being recorded. So we will go ahead and share this with you guys and put that out there in our registration page. Thank you all, and have a wonderful holiday weekend, and we'll see you soon.